Yes.
Are we ready to start?
Yes.
Are we ready to start? Good evening. Thank you all for attending our Meet the Candidate evening. My name is Patty Reich, and I'm the Secretary for the South Country PTA Council. Also with me is Chris Moresco, our PTA Council President. We have 3 candidates for the 2 open seats on the 2021-2022 Board of Education. The 3 candidates are current board member Chris Piccini, current board member Cameron Trent, and candidate Melissa Walker. Thank you, Mr. Piccini, Mr. Trent, and Ms. Walker for being here with us this evening. Tonight's event will be moderated by the Suffolk Region PTA. The moderators are Sherry McKittrick and Maria Sanders. Thank you all again for being here. I would now like to turn the meeting over to our moderators to begin tonight's event.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the South Country School District Meet the Candidates Night. I am Sherry McKittrick from Suffolk Region PTA and will be tonight's moderator. And Maria Sanders will be our timekeeper. Before we begin, I would like to go over the process that will take place tonight. All questions were submitted by community members ahead of time to Suffolk Region PTA. As monitor, the specific questions and order in which they are asked is at my discretion, and I have reviewed them all in advance. Modified or edited any similar questions to avoid redundancy. No additional questions will be allowed tonight. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes to make an opening remarks stating qualifications and reasons for running. When their 3 minutes are up, the timekeeper will ring the bell to specify that the sentence must be completed. Each candidate is given the opportunity to answer each question in 1 minute. When their minute is up, the timekeeper will ring the bell indicating the candidate must finish the sentence. No rebuttals are allowed during the question and answer period. Each candidate will be allowed 2 minutes to make closing statements after the last question has been answered. At this time, candidates can make rebuttals. The length of the program will be determined by the moderator prior to the beginning of the evening, and the event will not go over 2 hours. I will ask the last question 15 minutes prior to the end of time to allow for time for closing remarks. The timekeeper will show remaining before time expires by holding up time cards indicating 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, or 10 seconds remaining. Opening presentations will be in alphabetical order. Closing statements will be in reverse order. No literature may be posted on the screen during this meeting by the candidate or a candidate supporter. Now, I would like to introduce the candidates in the attendance for tonight, and they are Melissa Walker, Chris Piccini, and Cameron Trent. Now we will have opening statements. Melissa?
Hi. Thank you for hosting this event a day earlier so that I could attend. I have many things in common with the students of South Country. I'm the daughter of an immigrant mother. My father passed away when I was 10 years old. My mom didn't write or read English. She worked in a factory for minimum wage, and we didn't have much in the way of finances. I've lived most of my life in this community and know the richness of having diversity in life. I played soccer most of my time in school, so I know how important sports and extracurricular activities are to the children and to this district. Many of the friendships that I hold today began in the hallways in Bellport, from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, ethnicities, and races. I graduated from Bellport in 1996. I was the first person in my family to go to college. I worked throughout my college years and took out many student loans. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in behavioral sciences from NYIT. I worked as a social work counselor for foster care youth. I eventually adopted one of those teenagers from the foster care system. I received my law degree in 2009. I accepted a position as a prosecutor in the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office in 2009. From there, I opened up my own law practice where I remain today. I am married to a fellow Bellport graduate, and we have a 3-year-old son who has autism. I am seeking election to the board because I want to improve our district for all students. I believe in child-centered instruction with the starting point being the child. Last year and this school year came with many challenges because of the pandemic. I was disheartened to see my social media newsfeed flooded with disappointed parents. Parents constantly voice their concerns to the board about their children falling behind academically. I believe elementary students at least should have been in school full-time in person in September of 2020. Other schools such as West Babylon, Three Village, and Hauppauge were open full-time at that time and gave parents the option to either enroll them in remote or in person. I believe that is what this district should have done. Parents who wish to keep their children on remote learning should have been given that option. However, this is a public school and children should have been able to attend full-time at that time. In early fall, there was indication that schools were not super spreaders. Not only did children suffer academically, they suffered mentally and socially. I've spoken with several parents whose children have anxiety that didn't exist over a year ago. This district did not consider these factors when continuously deciding not to open full-time. In addition, school is a safe haven for many children. They may be living in a home where they have an addicted parent or they are neglected. They find safety and escape in the hours that they are physically in school. The district failed those students. I'm seeking election to provide a voice. Did she ding? Did she ding me?
She dinged. You
You can finish your sentence.
finish your sentence.
I'm seeking election to also provide a voice for special needs children, their parents, and their teachers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay, Chris?
Great, thank you. First, thank you to Chris and Patty from PTA Council for hosting this event once again. And thank you, Sherry and Marie from Suffolk Regional PTA for being here and doing and hosting this as well. My name is Chris Piccini. If you don't know me, been a trustee for 9 years. That's 3 terms. I'm seeking my 4th term. I've been living in the district 21 years. I grew up in neighboring Patchogue, where I graduated from Patchogue Medford High School. I have 3 kids in the district. I have twins in 5th grade, and I have a senior getting ready to graduate and move on to college in a few short months. You know, I thought long and hard about what to say tonight, what my opening statement would be, and I didn't really want to script anything because it's been such an emotional year, and I really just wanted to speak from the heart about, you know, what we've all gone through in the last year. And it's been tough on everybody, whether you were a proponent for school being open full time, or you wanted your kids on remote, or you wanted to keep, you know, hybrid. And I think it was that discussion. And when I understood and saw how the criteria of how decisions were being made, I realized my voice is needed. I felt like I was a voice for a lot of people who really weren't represented well on the board. Mostly, you know, I think our board, and I'm not criticizing any board members here, just the makeup of it is we needed parents with young children. And I think that was a perspective we were missing. And when I look at my own children and the impacts of COVID, meaning the shutdown, and I talk to parents and neighbors and colleagues and fellow students on what they went through, it was obvious that there was a disconnect from what was needed. And I felt like my voice can carry on and I can continue to contribute. I think anybody who's watched and paid attention to me for the last 9 years that I've been on the board understands I'm about one thing, and that's kids first. And I don't care who your kid is. I don't care if you're smart, if you're you know, a reluctant learner. I don't care if you're white, black, brown, Asian, male, female. I've been out advocating for every kid, because when your kid is well-rounded and is a good student and is a good citizen, that impacts my kid because they're peers, they're around one another. And this is just too important for petty differences and things like that to take over the day here and what's gone on. So that's why I asked to go back for a 4th term and see what we can do to keep going, because I think kids need to be in school, and I think we've proven that. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Cameron?
Hello, my name is Cameron Trent. I'm a graduate from Bellport High School. I've lived in the district my whole life, and I've always been involved in the district. I served on multiple board committees right out of high school. You know, I've always attended the meetings, so my involvement with the district goes way back. I ran for the board 3 times right out of high school. The first 2 times I ran, I didn't win. Currently, I'm almost 2 years into my first term, and I'm very proud of the accomplishments I've been able to achieve, thus far, despite COVID and in such little time. Since I was first elected to the board, I continuously visited schools, and we have advanced our students' safety in the district tremendously. I have always fought for our students, even before COVID, even before being a board member, looking for ways we can support our students' social and emotional well-being, advocating for our student safety in and out of the schools, attending PTA meetings in all buildings, and creating an equity and a legislative committee this year. And even during COVID, I was a strong advocate for all of our students receiving Chromebooks and mobile hotspots for those with connection issues. I advocated for permanent remote teachers and the resources they need to reach all of our students. I advocated for home visits to connect the unconnected, and I've always advocated for full-time instruction. I am, as I always have been, involved with what goes on in our district. I work hard to move our district forward in the area of transparency and communication. When the board was talking about going for 2 days instruction, full-time instruction, I felt the community had feedback and needed to be heard. So I had a Facebook Live to listen to our community and provide what answers I could. Ever since we resumed live instruction, I've been the only board member to meet at central office for our board meetings, because if we can ask our students and faculty to return, then so can I. And that's kind of my leadership style. I know the community may be used to board members that love the limelight, but I don't. I just want to make sure that our students have what they need to succeed, and you can leave the photo op and credit for the next guy. Our students need board members who get the job done and literally put in the groundwork. And that's what I do day in and day out. There are a ton of areas in our district that are in need of improvement, and we cannot afford another board member who does not put in the groundwork. It's really that important, and that's what I believe the bottom line is.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're going to start our questions now. Please remember, you only have 1 minute for your response, and the time will start after I'm done reading the question, okay? And Melissa, we're going to start with you. It is now clear with scientific validation that children pose virtually no risk with COVID-19. In addition, more than enough research has been done to show that masks are doing more damage, both physically and psychologically, than any good. How are you going to fight for our children's rights to breathe freely and stop the nonsense?
Well, I'm not opposed to masks, to the people who want to wear masks. I understand that they have some effect. However, like my child has autism and he has sensory processing disorders and cannot physically wear a mask because it distresses him. I think many children are distressed by the mask, and excluding children that are is wrong. I also believe that there are children with asthma that's affected with the mask, and I think that does more harm than good for them to wear a mask. There are so many children that are affected negatively by the mask. I don't really know the correct answer to this. I think that it would have to be a collaborative effort, but I do absolutely see the issues because I see them with my own son.
Okay, thank you. Chris.
Thank you. I think I completely understand the question. I'm not going to ask you to reread it, but listen, I'd love to ditch the masks too. I really would. I don't know that I'm there yet, and I don't know that masks don't help. And I don't know that they don't spread this virus. I do agree with what Melissa said. Obviously they're not applicable for everybody. There are special needs kids. There are kids with medical conditions that can't wear them, and they certainly shouldn't, have to if that's the case. I don't believe we should be wearing masks outside, and I don't believe we should be wearing masks if we're 6 feet apart. I think that's clear. But if we're going to be in close proximity for somebody for more than 10 minutes, I don't think the mask is the worst thing in the world. I would like to see the barriers shut down. I would like to see some of normal activities return, such as, whether it's events, sports, resets. We weren't even giving kids a ball to play with on the playground for a while because of it. And I think that was ridiculous.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's your time. Thank you. Okay. Cameron?
Yes, can you just repeat the question for me?
Okay. It is now clear with scientific validation that children pose virtually no risk with COVID-19. In addition, more than enough research has been done to show that masks are doing more damage, both physically and psychologically, than any good. How are you going to fight for our children's rights to breathe freely and stop the nonsense?
Well, I would wait for the Suffolk County Health Department to give us the okay to relax our mask policy. Because at the end of the day, even though we may want to relax the mask policy, we are governed by guidelines by these government agencies. And in my travels into the buildings, what I have noticed is that the students where the mask irritates them or they have sensory issues, they don't wear the mask. I have seen it multiple times in the hallway. I've asked a question about it, and that is the reason for them not wearing a mask. So again, if the health agencies say that it is okay to relax the mask, then I'm on for it.
Thank you. Okay. Chris, we're going to start with you. Wearing masks in school, social distancing, and small groups. What is your opinion on these COVID restrictions?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe I didn't hear the last part. So I got small groups, masks.
Wearing masks in school, social distancing, and small groups. What is your opinion on these COVID restrictions?
On the COVID restrictions. So I think I'm going to answer it as the COVID restrictions that the district has in place for the New York State guidelines. I think I said a little bit of it before. I think we need to be smart, and I think we really need to just take a little stock into what really is important. I don't like the mask. I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. I think, we should be able to come back together and be in groups and just be smart. Hand washing, things like that, I think are okay. I'm not really sure I completely understand the question, but I think it's a combination of some of the guidelines I think are a little bit too far and a little, unnecessary. And I think some of them make sense, right? I don't mind that my kids are washing their hands and using Purell a little bit more often than they had in the past. But again, if they're spread apart, if they're outside, I don't see any reason for a mask. And I certainly don't think that, it's been proven that the barriers do pretty much nothing. And I think the
Thank
one
you,
last
Chris.
piece, okay, sorry.
Oh, that's it. Cameron?
Yeah, so, our COVID policy is something that, the board works really hard to develop along with the administration. And there's a lot of time, a lot of diligence and effort that's put into our COVID policies. And it all derives from the direction that we get from the Center for Disease Agency, from the New York State Education Department, from the Suffolk County Health Department. So many agencies have input in what our policy is. But again, like I said before, if they give us clearance to relax these rules, then I'm all for it 100%. I think that, now, the barriers, they're saying that we could take those down, then sure. I want to get back to normal as much as everyone else does.
Okay. Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you. I'm pretty much going to piggyback off of what Chris said. I'm not opposed to masks. I am opposed to masks outside. I'm opposed to masks during any athletics, anything like that. I think that we can socially distance outside. And it's been proven that outside there's not really a huge chance of spread. So I believe that masks outside are definitely not appropriate. Inside, in small groups, if they're socially distanced, I could agree with removing masks, but I'm not opposed to masks. I believe that they do serve some purpose at this time. So I think that I would just listen to the guidelines and go from there, because I think what's more important right now is getting all children back to school full time. And if that means wearing a mask, then I'm okay with that.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Cameron, we're going to start with you for this question. If you had a choice to fix one thing from this school year, what would benefit all students? I'm sorry. If you had a choice to fix one thing from the school year that would benefit all students, what would it be and how would you fix it?
I think that if I could change one thing, it would be COVID. When I was elected, I had a huge game plan of things I wanted to tackle, right? I want to get this done, this done, this done. But when COVID came, it took that, that box of issues and put it on the back burner and gave the district and the world a whole set of issues that we had to deal with while simultaneously dealing with the original issues. So if we got rid of COVID, I truly believe as a district, we would be so much far ahead in all of these areas that I wanted to tackle: equity, our students' performance, our diversity in our staff. There's so many areas where COVID has held up our progress. So if there's one thing that I can change, it would definitely be COVID.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Chris?
Yeah, this is an easy one for me. School should have been open full-time sooner. Honestly, we should have been, I don't want to say we should have opened in September, but by October or the end of September, we should have been having the conversation. I think the board was late to have the conversation open, and the debate raged on into what they call the second wave. Our kids should have been back sooner, and I think we would have had more data to prove that we should have been, based on what the infection rates were for kids when they're in school. I think we did a disservice to our students for many of the reasons others brought up, right? COVID increased the equity gap more than any other issue in education in our history. The fact that kids weren't connected, and even connectivity, right? I can kind of say that we did a pretty good job of getting people connected, and it was a small percentage that wasn't. But when you don't have kids with the right environment to learn, and we know they weren't, I've said it before, my kids, it's hard to compete with an Xbox and a couch and a comfortable house versus a nurturing and learning environment like the classroom.
Thank you, Chris. Melissa?
Absolutely, children being back in school full time. As I stated in my opening, that is my main reason for running. And it was the fact that children were left out of school for so long. There were other schools in Suffolk County that were in school full time in September, and there was no reason why this district could not have done that. That affected our children, and probably for many years to come, in ways of social, academic, mental health wise, all of those. It's not just an academic issue. So I believe that that is the one thing that, I wasn't on the board, but I would have voted to have schools back in school full time like many others in September.
Thank you. Okay. Melissa, we're going to start with you for this question. If the entire school board agrees on something except you, what would you do? Do you feel it appropriate to use social media to push what you want?
No, I don't necessarily believe social media would be the way. I'm an attorney, so I'm used to not everyone agreeing with me. I'm used to standing on my own too. I don't get swayed very easily. I definitely listen to other people's opinions and can be convinced if it's something that I believe I need more information on. But if I'm standing my ground and solid on something, I don't really need social media to ask other people, how I should deal with something. I can do it on my own. So I'm going to stand my ground on my own.
Thank you. Cameron?
No, I don't think that's appropriate. There's been numerous occasions where, I have not voted with the majority of the board. But when the board makes a decision, at the end of the day, that's my decision as well. And we have to move forward as a group. One thing I wanted to say about COVID is, the board went at the pace of administration's recommendations. It didn't always, opening school didn't always have the support of the majority of the board, but it had it didn't always have all the board members' support, but it had a majority of the board support, and it had my support. You know, the reason why we had phases was because we just couldn't.
Okay, we're not doing rebuttals. As the COVID, I'm sorry, because it sounded more like a rebuttal.
I just wanted, no, I just wanted to add on to my answer from
Okay,
before. So can
I'm sorry.
Can I have that
Yes.
time back? So, yeah, so, you know, the district didn't have this space to include all of the students, and that's why there were phases. We went with the pace of administration.
Okay, thank you. I am sorry about that. Chris,
You know, it depends on what it is. You know, it's kind of a tough question to answer, and I kind of know the root of it and where it came from. I'm the board member who's criticized a lot for using social media. I believe in communicating directly with my constituents on what's happening so they understand where I stand. That doesn't mean criticizing, you know, other board members particularly, but I'm never going to hold the candle, you know, carry the torch for something I don't believe in if I think it's detrimental to our students. The issue of school opening, I believe, was detrimental to our students, and this was a problem. I certainly took to social media and spoke to parents and wanted to gauge the interest. And sure enough, you know, I was proven right as we went on. Most people wanted kids in school, and it was safe for them to be in school. So, yeah, I'm going to talk to my constituents, and I'm going to speak for myself as a board member and a community member, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of the district or the board.
thank you. Okay, Chris, we're going to start with you for this question. Many parents this year felt like the concerns of the majority of students were addressed. However, concerns of the minority of students were not. How do you feel about that?
I would disagree with that statement, and I understand that when you're in the minority, it feels like that. And I certainly was in the majority opinion within the community that schools should be open. But never once did I forget about anybody who didn't agree with me, because all kids matter. And whatever the situation is, the fact remains that remote instruction worked for some kids. I don't think it worked for a majority of kids. But I think that the administration went to great lengths to create equitable education through COVID. And unfortunately, there's change, and change isn't great in an educational environment in mid-year, but we all had to give up something. We all had to recognize that education during COVID is far from perfect, and it's going to have speed bumps along the way. So I don't believe anybody's voices were not heard. I believe I focus more on the minority opinion than I do the majority in the beginning of any debate, because I don't want anybody left behind.
Okay, thank you. Melissa?
Can you repeat the question?
Many parents this year felt like the concerns of the majority of students were addressed. However, concerns of the minority of students were not. How do you feel about that?
So I wasn't on the board, so I don't think I can really answer that question appropriately, because I wasn't getting any feedback from anyone other than on my social media newsfeed. So my social media newsfeed were parents being upset that their kids weren't in school and saying that surveys were given out, and the minority of parents wanted their children to remain on remote, and the majority actually wanted their children to go back full time. And those were the ones that were ignored. And I supported those people.
Okay, thank you. Cameron?
Yes, again, you know, the board went at the pace and the recommendations of administration, point blank period. We couldn't move any faster. You know, we could have had the conversation faster, of course. Hindsight is always 20/20. And I could see why some community members feel that way, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, the decisions that we made on the board and that revolve around COVID were extraordinarily hard. And there were students who benefited from each decision we made, and students who didn't benefit from the decisions we made. You know, going back to 5 days in elementary was very hard for me, but I knew that was the best thing for our students. And I also knew that, you know, the remote students would be changing teachers. There is no, you know, there's no right answer, you know, because all of this is new. We did what we thought was best for the students with the information we had, in the time that we had. I really think that, as a board, I certainly listen to all sides.
Okay, thank you very much. Cameron, we're going to start with you for this question. For topics on which you and the Bellport Teachers Association disagree, how do you plan to work with them to come to a fair resolution?
So, I have a close working relationship with the BTA, but at the end of the day, what the board says goes. And one of the most recent decisions that I disagreed with them on was, bringing elementary back to 5 days. I know what I knew what the teachers, what they wanted and how they felt, but I felt that the best decision was to bring them back for 5 days. And you always want to give them the opportunity to give their input, to sit at the table, to give help with the decision making. But at the end of the day, the board knows and the teachers know that the board makes the decisions. They have to trust that we have the students' best interest at heart at the end of the day.
Thank you. Chris?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it one time? I just want to make sure I got it.
For topics on which you and the Bellport Teachers Association disagree, how do you plan to work with them to come to a fair resolution?
Sure, it's easy. Individual board members shouldn't be working directly with the BTA. There's a chain of command, and the BTA has a venue, has an audience with the superintendent once a week. And that's the way it should go. When the BTA leadership goes directly to board members, and then a board member carries out their wishes at the board table, you micromanage the district and you undercut the administration. And then we don't have a chain of command. We don't have any type of continuity of authority. And that's a problem. And it's been a problem here for a long time. Now, not to say we shouldn't speak and understand, what's happening in perspective on some of our teachers and staff, but to think that, there should be some sort of direct communication with individual board members with BTA leadership, I believe it's inappropriate.
Thank you. Melissa?
Well, I'm specifically and solely here for the children and what's in their best interest. I'm not here to please any teachers association. I'm here for what is best for what is best for these children, period. If it goes along with what the Teachers Association believes, then fine. If it doesn't, it's not going to work for me. I'm here only for the children.
Okay, thank you. All right, next question. Melissa, we're going to start with you. What plans do you have for improving the educational experience for remote learners? And what are your thoughts on having dedicated teachers for remote learners?
I believe it's a good idea to have dedicated teachers for remote learning if that's what we're going to be doing. I don't know that that's what we're going to be doing in the future, but if that is the case, I think that that's best because it gives continuity. It gives, students the ability to connect with a teacher, even though it's through remote. That's always best to have a constant for a child instead of having, teacher 1 on this day, teacher 2 on this day. So I totally agree with that. I think I missed the first part of the question. Can you read the first part of the question again?
What plans do you have for improving the educational experience for remote learners?
Well, and I think as far as improving the remote learning, I think that's very difficult to do because you're in a computer screen. People are in their own home environments, some which don't have good home environments, some who do have access to a lot of activities, some who don't have anything. So I don't know that you actually can improve that. I think that the teacher idea, continuity, is good, but the other, I don't know that you can improve it so much.
Thank you. Okay, Cameron?
Definitely having one teacher, for the whole year while the student is remote. Hopefully that the state allows the district to continue, our remote learning. That's yet to be seen. But we have already set aside money in the budget to provide for remote teachers. One of the suggestions I've made at the start of COVID. and just to support them and make sure that our students are connected and continue to connect. If that's, having a visit to their home to seeing why they're not connecting, then we need to do that. If that's providing them a hotspot or a mouse to make their experience better, then we need to do that. And also just keeping those students in the loop of our decision-making team. And I also wanted to, to see if we could have, those students participate in, student council, so they could have a voice in what their school experience is like remotely.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you. It's simple for me. Trustees don't create plans on how to educate students. It's not what we do. It's not what we should do. We're not educators. I know our board does have one teacher on the board, but we don't have we're not loaded with superintendents and principals and assistant principals and directors. We're simply there to provide oversight. Now, that being said, it was a clear miss that we didn't have remote only teachers from day one. And I think you just heard Cameron say there are plans for that for next year. But we really need to be cautious, and the public needs to understand that that's really not what a board member does. It's not our role. And when a board member takes on that role, or when things go south, we hire professionals, we hire educated people who are educators, and we need them to tell us what is best for all of our students to be educated, and we need to ask them why, and then hold them accountable for the results of what that is or what is put in place. It is that simple. So board members creating plans is really a dangerous spot to be in.
Okay, thank you very much. Chris, we're going to start with you for this question. What goals do you wish to see set and achieved by South Country's Equity in Education Board Advisory Subcommittee? And what aspects of our district do you feel will benefit the most immediate action of the subcommittee?
That was a mouthful. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to take it all in. Can I ask you to read it? It's the second part. It's almost like it's two questions. That's why I asked. If you just give me one time, I'll jot some notes down.
Okay. What goals do you wish to see set and achieved by South Country's Equity in Education Board Advisory Subcommittee? And what aspects of our district do you feel will benefit most from immediate action of the subcommittee?
I mean, specific goals are tough. I think, when you completely understand the inequity in education and what's happening, and I don't think enough people really do. I want every child to have the opportunity to learn equally. And that doesn't really exist right now, and especially under remote learning with the technology and the equipment, issues. I'm trying to rush through because it's two questions here, really. So, I hope that makes sense. But when the portion about, who will benefit, we all benefit when all of our kids, thrive. Peers thrive off one another in school settings, and that's really the most important piece. So I apologize if my question seemed a little jumbled. I just feel like there's not enough time in 1 minute to answer that question.
Okay, thank you. Melissa?
I think that's a difficult question as well, but I think access to technology is the biggest thing, especially in this remote learning. But even outside of remote learning, we used to go to a card catalog when I was younger and look up books and things like that. The kids don't do that these days. Everything's online, everything's researched. So I think that access to technology is huge, and we have to give every student the ability to be able to achieve their goals through that. I also believe maybe a mentoring program. I think that would greatly affect and greatly help disadvantaged kids. When I worked in the foster care system, you're talking about kids who don't have the guardians at home. They don't have good parents. It's a foster parent, or it's an aunt, or it's a grandmother. And I think that equity in education, I think that a mentoring program would help these students, and it would help the most disadvantaged students. And I think that's pretty much where I stand there.
Thank you. Cameron?
The one goal that I would love to see the equity committee create or achieve is dignity. Dignity for all of our students. because once you have dignity, then you can have achievement. Once you have dignity, then you can receive the education that the teacher is providing you. You know, I want all of our students to feel like they belong, to feel like they are a part of the building, because, you know, that is initially why I ran for the board, is because I wasn't experiencing that when I was a student, which is why I ran right out of high school. So dignity for all of our students so they can achieve. You know, that's why I had asked for the creation of the equity committee, so that we could achieve dignity, because if comes dignity, comes achievement.
Thank you. Okay. Cameron, we're going to start with you for this question. Are you aware that North Belport has the lowest life expectancy on Long Island? Do you believe that the landfill has disproportionately affected North Belport, and why? And do you believe the landfill has contributed to that?
Absolutely. You know, I did hear about that statistic, and it is alarming, but it's not surprising. You know, before I was, like I said in my opening statement, before I was a board member, I was a big advocate for our student safety in the building and out. And that's what I mean by and out, because they're only, you know, in the district or in the school, you know, a certain period of time throughout the day. But the other time they're home and they're in their community, most of which is in North Belport, you know, where, you know, you go outside and you smell, you know, these fumes in the air that common sense tells you is not healthy for you. And I think that is, you know, as board members, we are also student advocates. You know, you can't just, you know, operate in the little bubble of the roles of a board member. You know, you have to fight for your students, whether it's, you know, going to a town hall meeting to tell them to shut down the dump, you know, or advocating in the board meeting to do that. You have to fight for your students, and that's what I've been doing, you know, even before a board member.
Thank you. Okay. Melissa?
Yes, I'm aware of that. I actually read up on that. I'm also aware that in September, the town agreed to pay a $250,000 fine over emissions from its landfill. So there's obviously some acknowledgement that something is going on there. However, I'm not a scientist. I don't know the ins and outs. There are also, I'm sure, other factors about life expectancy, like medical conditions. We don't know that, you know, the community's medical conditions, diabetes, heart disease. We don't know other things that may contribute to life expectancy, and I'm not going to act like I can. But I do know that the landfill has caused many problems. I do know that there is a smell. I've smelled it myself. And I do know it's really been done, but I'm not sure of actually what to do at this point. I think that there needs to be independent evaluations, but I'm not a scientist. I can't say why there's a low life expectancy rate in North Belport.
Thank you. Okay, Chris.
Yeah, so I am aware of that stat. I had heard it before, but similar to what Melissa said, I don't know that it's attributed back to anything specific. So it's hard to speculate. I mean, listen, I think we all know it's time for the landfill to close. I believe there is a date for it to close within the next few years. So I think quality of life goes up. Do I think the life expectancy goes up? I don't know. I'm not a scientist either. I know there were extensive studies done on behalf of the district and many other agencies specific to Frank P. Long. And, you know, there wasn't any evidence that the landfill caused any health issues with anybody in and around the building. Does that, you know, transcend over into the community? I don't know. You know, I can't say that I know that. I can't say that anybody knows that. And if they do, I'd like to see the study, because if it is, you know, then it changes the game a little bit. But sure, we could all do better if that doesn't smell, because my kids are at Martha Avenue Park or the Boys and Girls Club, and, you know, we smell it. We don't live it every day, and it's different. I get that. But anyway, I know my time's up. Thank you.
Okay. Melissa, we're going to start with you. Are you aware of the Cathiness energy projects on Long Island? And are you aware that there is concern that South Country School District has not received full funding from the project while suffering the negative impact from it?
I'm going to be honest on this. No, I can't say that I do know much about that. So I'm just going to have to end it there.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I'm sorry to ask you to repeat the question again because I'm not sure I understand the ending of it there. Go ahead.
Okay.
And it's Caithness, so I'm aware of Caithness.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, what, I'm sorry, what was it?
Caithness is how it's pronounced.
Caithness? Are you aware of the Caithness energy projects on Long Island? And are you aware that there was concern that South Country School District has not received full funding from the project while suffering the negative impact from it?
So the Caithness energy plant in Yaphank has been there for some time. For a time, I think I still might even be, but for a time was the liaison to the town for our pilot payments. I believe we're up to $9 million a year on a pilot payment from Caithness. So I don't know that we're not getting our fair share because they built on vacant land that would bring us nothing, and we're getting $9 million. So I've never heard any concerns that we're not getting our fair share. I think we are getting the lion's share of the money, the pilot payments that come out of there, as opposed to neighboring districts, because I think Longwood gets a small piece, and the fire districts as well. I'm not aware of any concerns in regards to health due to that facility that I've heard of and the board's been made aware of in any official capacity.
Okay, thank you. Cameron?
Yes, I am aware. The board was made aware, and we did look into it. We had got advice from our council, which I cannot speak about, but I would say that the issue as it comes to pilot payments is not accurate.
Okay, thank you. Chris, we're going to start with you for this question. Do you believe that having two toxic infrastructures in this area is negatively affecting the lives of the children, teachers, and staff at our schools?
I'm sorry, you broke up in the beginning. I don't know if it's my
Okay.
AirPods or you. Just start again. I'm sorry.
Do you believe that having two toxic infrastructures in this area is negatively affecting the lives of the children, teachers, and staff at our schools?
I think, I kind of covered it, a few questions ago. I mean, is it have a negative impact that they're outside and it smells? Yeah, sure it does. I'm not aware of two. Maybe it's the mulch facility is being referenced there and is along with the dump. I think the district, I can only say this, listen, the district has gone to great lengths at great expense to monitor the environment in and outside of that building. And every study that we've received from professionals and from the Department of Health and the DEC have all said that the building is safe. I'm not a scientist that I can challenge that. I'm not there every day, so I don't experience it. And I understand that there are people that do, and it is a nuisance, the smell and everything else. And I'm sure it's not good for you. Don't get me wrong. But, I don't know that it's had such a detrimental health impact that can be proven. If it is, I'd be the first one online to vote to shut the place down.
Thank you. Melissa?
Can you state the question again?
Sure. Do you believe that having two toxic infrastructures in this area is negatively affecting the lives of the children, teachers, and staff at our schools?
Again, I think I covered, what I felt with the dump. I don't know what the second toxic infrastructure would be. Like Chris said, maybe that mulch facility there. But as far as the dump, I'm not a scientist, so I do know that there have been many studies and all the studies say that they're safe. I do know that there is a smell. I've smelled it. I wouldn't want my children to smell it. I do believe that something absolutely needs to be done. If there's evidence that the place is toxic and that people are actually getting cancer that's caused by that and actually getting sick from that, it should be shut down immediately. Maybe get another independent source in there to start testing. But as far as I know, all the tests have been coming back that there's, it's safe. I just don't have an answer to that.
Okay, thank you. Cameron?
Absolutely. I don't believe you need to be a scientist in order to tell that. And I would also say that board members advocate for our student safety in the building and out. So I know, for example, Me and Trustee Felice, we visited all of our elementary schools when we voted to bring them to 5 days. And, outside of Frank Pilon, there were tons of potholes on I think it was Town Road. And we had advocated to the board to draft a letter and send it to the town to, repair those potholes because it endangers the safety of our students in our buses as they go to and from the building. And that is an example of us advocating for our student safety in the building and out.
Okay, thank you. All right. Cameron, we're going to start with you for this question. Are you willing to fight to have the curriculum include local issues such as the landfill?
No, I don't think I'm willing to fight for that. What the teacher does in the classroom is entirely up to them as it aligns with the curriculum. I know when I was in school, a couple of my history teachers would mention, relevant topics to tap into the lesson. If that's what they want to do and think is appropriate, then sure. I don't want to really dictate what they do in the classroom as long as it's appropriate and it abides by, the curriculum that the board approves. So having this landfill being ingrained in the curriculum is not something that I would, particularly support. But if a teacher wanted to use it to tie into a lesson and it is, productive and it is, without, a biased opinion, then absolutely.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Board members don't advocate for specifics in the curriculum. That comes from New York State standards and it comes from our educators. So to say that the issue with the landfill, it should be embedded in our curriculum, I think is inappropriate. And I would not advocate for that.
Thank you. Melissa?
No, absolutely not. Again, I don't think it's appropriate. It's not our job to do that, and I wouldn't advocate for that.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Melissa, we're going to start with you for this question. Please explain your understanding of the term critical race theory and if you feel it should be part of a future curriculum.
Well, I think a minute is not long enough to discuss what critical race theory is. What I will say about critical race theory, because I've done a lot of research on it, is that to me, it doesn't align with any of what I would want to teach children or what I would want my child to be taught in schools. I think that even throughout this process, any opposition to saying I oppose critical race theory is not met with why. Let's have a discussion. It's met with you're a white supremacist, you're a racist, to shut down any productive debate. I have actually researched many Black scholars who oppose critical race theory because it tells the Black child that they are the victim and the white child that they are the oppressor. So this is a thing that we can go on for many hours, and I don't think it's fair to do this in 1 minute. And I also don't think it's fair to be labeled as children and to be labeled as a racist if you don't agree with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Cameron?
Very simply, I don't support critical race theory. And if administration were to recommend it be put on the agenda for board approval to be put in that curriculum, I would vote no.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, critical race theory, I'm not sure enough people really understand what it is. And I count myself as one of those. It seems to be the new political hot button on CNN and Fox is, what are we talking about? And the last thing we need is that leaking its way into our curriculum. So until I completely knew what it was, I would say no. For what I do know about it right now, it would be a no for me.
Okay, thank you. All right, Chris, we're going to start with you for this question. We had 2 recent incidents in our school district of overt racism that was made public. Are you aware of those 2 issues? What do you propose can be done to eliminate racism in our schools?
You know, I can't answer if I know, because I don't know what the question, the questioner is, what 2 instances, right? I mean, because I'm sure somebody could say there's been 4 instances or 6 instances or 1 instance. So I can assure you, if there's ever an official complaint or an issue brought to the Board of Education, I'm certainly, aware of it. I think it's important. One of the problems we have and we're experiencing right now is when a false accusation of racism is made, it diminishes, real instances that need to be addressed. And I think we need to be mindful of that. So without really referencing a specific instance, I don't really know. We can talk about educating staff all we want. What they learn when they're on their private time and how they've grown up determines how they feel. So, I mean, racism is a problem, not just in schools, it's a problem everywhere. And until everybody can have fair conversations and discussion about our differences, nothing will change.
Thank you. Melissa?
I'm not aware of any. I don't know if something was reported to the board because I'm not on the board. So I can't say that I'm aware of any instances and what particular instances, but absolutely, if there is a concern and there is a complaint, it should be brought, it should be investigated, and it should be dealt with. But at this time, I don't know what 2 instances we're discussing, so I can't specifically respond to that.
Okay, thank you. Cameron?
I can't, I'm sure that I'm aware of those 2 instances, and I can't really speak about it because they're district employees. But, to answer the second part of your question, how do we eliminate racism in our district? That is, one of the things I hope that our equity committee can tackle. In the book that we're reading is about equity and diversity. There's a quote that says, "The culture of any organization is shaped by the worst behavior the leaders are willing to tolerate." And when instances like these arise, it's very important that the district and the board hold these individuals accountable 100%. And how do we change that moving forward? We need to have a culture shift in our district. And that starts at the top, but with the leaders. We need to change how we think about culture and the way it affects all of our students.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and for our last question, we're going to start with Cameron. If you could implement one single change for the children of our district, what would it be? Cameron?
Yeah, I'm just
Okay,
thinking.
thought you froze for a second.
There are so many things that our students struggle with. During COVID, it showed us, that there were so many challenges that we didn't notice. We were giving out during COVID. We decided to provide meals for our students, and I volunteered with a couple of the trustees, to serve the meals to the community. And I realized that there's such a huge need, and this is a massive, amount of students who are food insecure. So I would say that that is definitely an important thing that I think that we should deal with as a district. But again, there are so many issues that are incredibly important.
Thank you. Chris?
So I'll make sure I understand it. One change for our
One
students.
change.
One change. I wish I could prioritize just one. But I guess if I really had to prioritize something, is I just want every student that walks into our buildings or that we educate, maybe their home, to feel included and to feel a part of the community, no matter what they look like, no matter how they dress, no matter how much money they have or don't have. I just want everybody to feel like they can come here and learn and be safe and be nurtured and be a part of everything that goes on. I've seen too many kids just be excluded. When you look at the world we live in today with social media and technology and who's keeping up with who, there's just a lot of pressure on these kids. And I would really hope that those kids that don't have as much, those kids that struggle, those kids that may be homeless, understand that there's hope here and that there's a place for you here to succeed.
Thank you. Melissa?
I would say, being the mother of a special needs son who is going to go to school soon, acceptance of children that are different, someone that looks differently from you. My son is nonverbal. I don't know if he will speak. I hope he will, but if he doesn't, I would want him to still be able to have friends just like everyone else, for people to not look at him as the strange kid. I don't believe in tolerance. I believe in teaching your children to accept others. And that's what I want for all children, of all races, all ethnicities, all religions, all backgrounds, because without acceptance, children will not feel secure in the school, and they are there just as much as they are home. So that's what I would want for all of our children.
Okay, thank you very much. That ends our question and answer session. So we are now getting ready for our closing statements. Please remember, you will have 2 minutes for each, okay? And we are actually going to start in reverse order. So Cameron, you will be first.
Yeah, so, I guess I'll talk a little bit about why I decided to run for a second term on the board. Well, yeah, for a second term. To be honest with you, it really took me, a while to decide to run again, simply because of, so much things that have been, said about me during the school year. It just became, very difficult for me to push forward. But it wasn't until I was at a Bellport Strong event where a high school student came up to me and she said, "Thank you for coming, Mr. Trent." She said, "We appreciate you. We see what you do. And we're grateful that you support us in what we do." And, it was that moment that I realized that our students are depending on me to run again. In that moment, it was kind of like it kind of brought me back to my motives about, what is the mission here and the objective here. And now, even through this campaign, it has been extraordinarily divisive. I have been called so many racial slurs on social media. Just the other day, my uncle's girlfriend pulled out something that was left in my mailbox with racial slurs on it. So I think that speaks to the importance of our equity committee, because, it's important that all of our students feel included and feel a part of our district. Because at the end of the day, without dignity, you can't receive any education that is provided to you. So I just want to, I guess, share that with you. And I hope I have your support on Election Day.
Thank you very much. Chris?
Thank you. I'll try to keep this to 2 minutes. Again, I didn't script anything because I really believe in speaking from the heart. I said it earlier. I really didn't think I was going to run again, and COVID and everything that went on really taught me that maybe my perspective is needed. I'd like to sit here and give you examples of all the things I've done, all the people I've helped, and all that other stuff. But I don't want credit for that. I just want to keep the opportunity to help people and to help provide a proper education for everybody. I'm just here for all kids. I don't want to make it complicated. I don't want to be around for photo ops. I don't want to get credit. People talk all the time about a board member being a thankless job. And I always tell them that's really not true. I love it. I love doing it. It gets frustrating. It gets tiresome. Believe me, my wife and kids would probably like it if I didn't run. I'm sure my wife's not voting for me because she probably is done. But, I love it. I love the faces. I love the interactions. Just this week, I was asked to be interviewed by a high school student for a project. You know, that's the good stuff. And being able to be at a meeting and advocate, you know, for our students and what I think is best for them, and to make sure that as a district we're doing two things that a board member is most important. Number one, we need to fight Albany and get the funds that we need so that we can provide the education. It's something I've done through my whole 9 years of lobbying in Albany. I'm on the Nassau Suffolk School Board Association and the executive committee and the legislative committee. You know, I run out of words because I really just, I think my perspective is needed. I hope you appreciate what I've been able to do for the last 9 years. I think I've been a valued and productive member of the board, and I'd like to continue doing it for the next 3. So I hope you consider casting a vote for me once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa?
Thank you. As a new candidate, I was naive to think that I was just going to help children. That is the sole purpose why I decided to run. I had parents reach out to me saying they think that I would make a good board member. I didn't really know much about it and I didn't give it much thought. But as time went on this school year, I said, you know what? I do have a lot of experience. I was a social worker. I adopted a foster care teenager. I went to law school. I put myself through school. I have $320,000 in loans. I come from an immigrant family and I can make a difference. And like Mr. Trent said, this has absolutely been a divisive and downright disgusting election season. I considered dropping out several times because of my position on critical race theory, which was the question. I've been called a white supremacist. I've been called a racist. I've been called a piece of you know what, all online by people who have never met me a day in their life. I'm a member of this community. I have been for most of my life. All I've done is help children, including a lot of pro bono work I do legally for children in North Bellport and people in North Bellport who can testify that I actually represent so many people in this community for free when they get into legal problems in the criminal realm. So to be called those names and to know the diversity that I have in my life and the beautiful just rainbow that I have in my life is disheartening, when all I want is to be here for the children. And that's what I'm going to do. I decided not to drop out because everything is for the children that I do. And I believe that I could be an effective member on this board. And it's all about the children. It's not about these naysayers, and it's not about people calling names, whether it be for Mr. Trent or whether it be against me or anybody else.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. And the best of luck to all of you. And that concludes Meet the Candidate Night.